The Appalachian Mountains stretch over 1,500 miles across eastern North America, spanning from Alabama in the south to Canada in the north. This vast range cuts through multiple states, including Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and New York, encompassing a diverse landscape of dense forests, rugged hills, and remote valleys. Covering such a large area, the Appalachians host countless ecosystems, cultures, and historic sites. Their wide reach also contributes to a deep well of folklore and mysterious stories passed down through generations, making the Appalachian Mountains not only geographically vast, but also culturally and historically rich. Hiker reports a mysterious encounter. In the quiet solitude of an undisclosed section of the Appalachian Mountains, a man experienced something that would linger in his memory for years. An avid hiker and nature enthusiast, he had spent many weekends exploring the vast, rugged wilderness of the mountain range. The Appalachians, known for their dense forests and ancient mist-covered slopes, had always been a place of comfort for him, a peaceful escape from the noise of everyday life. But one particular outing took a turn that left him questioning the boundaries between the natural and the unknown. He recalled the night being cool and clear. The sounds of rustling leaves and the occasional scampering of small animals filled the forest air, as it always had. The man was walking along a secluded trail, keeping to himself and enjoying the rhythm of nature. He had no reason to expect anything out of the ordinary, but what happened next would leave him with an unease that time could never quite erase. Without warning, the atmosphere shifted. It was as if someone had flipped a switch, silencing the forest in an instant. Every bird call, every rustle, every insect hum stopped altogether. The sudden silence struck him immediately. He described it not just as a lack of noise, but as an absence of life, something almost unnatural. The kind of silence that presses in from all sides and makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Standing still in the center of the trail, he scanned his surroundings, trying to find a reason for the eerie quiet. He listened intently, and that's when he heard it, a low, guttural grunt emerging from behind him. The sound wasn't loud, but it was close, and it cut through the silence like a blade. He could feel the vibration of it, deep and deliberate, resonating through the air. It wasn't the call of any animal he was familiar with. It wasn't a bear, it wasn't a wild boar, and it certainly wasn't human. Turning around slowly, he peered into the tree line, but the source of the sound remained hidden in the dense brush. There was no visible movement, no sign of anything approaching. Yet the feeling that something was watching him, just out of sight, grew stronger by the second. Trusting his instincts, he made the decision to leave the area immediately. He walked quickly at first, then broke into a jog, not stopping until he was back at his vehicle and safely down the mountain. He never returned to that part of the forest again. Even years later, he vividly remembered the unnatural silence and the strange noise. He couldn't say for certain what had been out there that day, but he was convinced that something was. Whether it was an undiscovered animal, a territorial creature, or something else entirely, he remained certain that the Appalachian Mountains still harbor mysteries not meant to be uncovered. The Witch. Deep within the shadowed hollows and mist-covered ridges of the Appalachian Mountains, whispers of a mysterious presence continue to echo. Among the oldest and most unsettling tales passed down through generations is that of the Appalachian Witch, a mysterious woman said to wander the dense woods, appearing suddenly to those who stray too far from the trail. The legends vary from one community to the next, but the central figure remains the same, an old woman cloaked in black, skilled in folk magic, feared by locals, and rarely spoken of without a hush in the voice. These stories are more than just campfire tales. They are deeply woven into the cultural fabric of Appalachian life. For centuries, families living in remote cabins have recounted chilling encounters with this figure. Some say she guards sacred parts of the land, appearing when outsiders trespass or disrespect the forest. Others believe she is a remnant of older times, a spirit or witch left behind, tied to the land through rituals long forgotten. Though descriptions differ, one detail often repeats: her ability to move at unnatural speeds. Hikers exploring isolated areas of the Appalachian Trail have shared eerie accounts of being followed at night. In many of these stories, the woman is first seen standing still in the woods, just beyond the tree line. Moments later, she appears again, much closer and without sound. Some have described her reappearing in front of them after being behind them only seconds earlier. No footfalls, no warning, just her sudden presence. A few have said her eyes seemed to glow faintly in the darkness, while others described hearing whispers in a language they could not understand. Those who claim to have encountered her often describe a sudden drop in temperature, an overwhelming feeling of being watched, and the sensation that time momentarily slows down. These stories are frequently told by seasoned hikers, people with no history of panic or exaggeration, who left the woods shaken and changed. While some believe it could be the mind playing tricks in the isolation of the wilderness, others insist the encounters are all too real. Local folklore has long warned visitors not to disrespect the land, and many believe the witch represents nature's response to human arrogance. In some versions of the legend, she places curses on those who leave trash, speak ill of the forest, or ignore old trail markers. One old tale tells of a group of young campers who laughed off the warnings of an elderly local only to go missing that night. While no official connection has ever been made, the story continues to circulate in hushed tones around town gatherings. What fuels the legend further are the unexplained disappearances that occasionally occur within the region. Though many of these vanishings are attributed to getting lost or suffering accidents, some locals quietly wonder whether something more mysterious is at work. The Appalachian witch may never be proven real, but her legend endures. The mystery of the lost gold. The legend of the lost Confederate gold continues to captivate the imagination of treasure hunters, historians, and adventurers across the United States. Believed to have vanished at the end of the American Civil War, this elusive treasure has become one of the most enduring mysteries in American history. The story centers around a shipment of gold bullion from the Confederate treasury, which was reportedly sent westward in a final attempt to keep it out of Union hands as the Confederacy collapsed. Somewhere along its journey, the shipment disappeared, and the gold was never seen again. Many believe the missing treasure remains hidden deep within the Appalachian Mountains, an expansive and rugged range that stretches from Virginia to Georgia. This terrain, known for its thick forests, winding trails, and secluded valleys, provides an ideal setting for hiding something as valuable as gold. Over the decades, countless treasure seekers have combed through these mountains, searching for signs of the lost fortune, but so far, none have emerged with definitive proof of its location. What makes the legend even more fascinating is the abundance of theories surrounding the fate of the gold. Some believe that loyal Confederate officials may have buried the treasure in a secret location, hoping it would one day help fund a renewed effort. Others speculate that the gold was quietly taken for personal gain by those entrusted with its transportation. Still others think that the shipment never made it into the mountains at all, and was instead lost, stolen, or sunk during transit. These competing theories only add to the mystery, encouraging new generations to continue the search. Estimates of the treasure's value vary widely, with some claiming it could be worth just a few $1,000,000, while others suggest the amount might exceed $20 million in today's currency. The absence of an exact figure has done little to discourage treasure hunters, and in many ways, the uncertainty only adds to the appeal. For many, it is not just the monetary value, but the historical significance and the thrill of solving a century-old puzzle that drives their efforts. The search for the lost Confederate gold has led to many curious and controversial stories. In the 1930s, a group of adventurers claimed to have discovered the gold hidden in a remote cave in New Mexico. The site, later referred to as Victorio Peak, became the center of heated debate, with some believing the gold was real and others suspecting that it had either been planted or was an entirely different treasure altogether. Another intriguing chapter involves a man named Tommy Thompson, who pursued the treasure not in the mountains, but beneath the waters off the coast of South Carolina. Thompson and his team eventually discovered a sunken ship believed by some to be carrying gold from the Confederacy. However, the excitement of the discovery quickly turned to conflict, as legal disputes and allegations of wrongdoing overshadowed the find. The treasure, if it truly was Confederate gold, remains contested to this day. Despite the decades of speculation, failed expeditions, and false leads, the mystery of the lost Confederate gold remains unsolved. No confirmed evidence has ever surfaced to conclusively reveal what happened to the treasure or where it might now lie. Yet this lack of closure has done nothing to diminish the story's allure. For some, the gold is symbolic, a reminder of the South's last desperate days and the enduring legacy of the Civil War. For others, it represents a real opportunity waiting to be uncovered in the quiet hollows and shadowy ridges of the Appalachian Range. The story continues to inspire books, documentaries, and even organized treasure hunting tours. Whether the treasure truly exists or has simply become the stuff of myth, the legend of the lost Confederate gold will likely endure for generations to come, luring explorers into the wilderness with the hope that they might one day stumble upon a secret that has remained buried for more than 150 years. The mystery of Hemi. The unexplained disappearance of Hemi remains one of Kentucky's most haunting unsolved mysteries. On the weekend of the 2nd of June 1974, Hemi, a 29-year-old man from Lexington, Kentucky, ventured out to the Mill Creek Lake area of Natural Bridge State Park. Dropped off by his fiancée Ruth, Hemi planned a peaceful weekend filled with camping, fishing, and a chance to disconnect from the noise and demands of everyday life. He had no idea it would be the last time anyone would see him. Hemi was a kind-hearted man with a young daughter and a life filled with promise. Nature brought him a sense of calm, and the plan was simple: spend the weekend enjoying the outdoors, then return home to his family. However, when Ruth returned to the area on Sunday to pick him up, there was no sign of Hemi. His campsite was empty, and the man who had arrived there in search of solitude had vanished without a trace. Worried and confused, Ruth contacted park officials and local police to report Hemi missing. As word of his disappearance spread, 2 fishermen came forward with critical information. They had been in the Mill Creek area around 2:30 in the afternoon that same Sunday and recalled seeing some of Hemi's personal belongings. Law enforcement quickly launched a search and discovered a wallet, clothing, shoes, and a wrist brace, items all confirmed to belong to Hemi. However, 2 blankets and a black zippered bag were nowhere to be found. The search that followed was extensive. Multiple agencies, park officials, local law enforcement, and trained bloodhounds combed the woods, trails, and the lake. Boats were deployed to search Mill Creek Lake. Volunteers and professionals alike scoured every corner they could access. Despite these coordinated efforts, there was no sign of Hemi, no footprints, no clues, no further items recovered. It was as if he had simply disappeared into the wilderness. The missing zippered bag and blankets added to the mystery. While many disappearances in national parks are eventually attributed to getting lost or encountering dangerous terrain, Hemi's case lacked many of those common indicators. His personal belongings were found, but the absence of the blankets and bag suggested that he may have left the area intentionally, or perhaps was taken. Questions quickly emerged. Why were only certain items left behind? Did someone else come across the camp? Could someone have removed the missing items and taken Hemi with them? Or did Hemi attempt to leave and meet with some misfortune elsewhere? For his family, the loss has remained deeply painful. Hemi's daughter grew up never knowing her father. Grandchildren now carry the legacy of a man who disappeared under the most perplexing circumstances. Each passing year without answers adds to the sorrow and frustration. There were no significant leads and no conclusive evidence to explain what may have occurred that weekend in the Kentucky wilderness. What makes the disappearance especially unsettling is the silence that followed. After the search efforts wound down, there was little in the way of updates or breakthroughs. The case faded from public attention, but not from the hearts of those who loved him. Time has only deepened the mystery. The Natural Bridge State Park is a place of beauty and peace, but like many remote natural areas, it also holds secrets. The trails and forests that once welcomed Hemi now serve as a backdrop to unanswered questions and lingering doubt. What happened in those woods remains unknown. Was it a tragic accident, an intentional vanishing, or something more troubling? Though the years have passed, Hemi Moore's story continues to echo through the hills of Natural Bridge. Until answers come to light, it will remain one of the Appalachian region's most unsettling unsolved cases. a reminder that even the most peaceful places can sometimes harbor mysteries that refuse to be solved. The mysterious encounters with phantom black cats. Throughout the vast expanse of the Appalachian Mountains, hikers and campers have long whispered stories of eerie encounters with mysterious phantom black cats. These stories are not simply tales passed down through generations, but recent reports from modern-day travelers who claim to have come face-to-face with large, feline shadows that seem to appear from nowhere and vanish just as suddenly. These creatures, often described as cougars, pumas, black panthers, leopards, and lynxes, defy easy explanation, especially given that many of the species described are not known to live in the region or have not been officially documented there in decades. The most commonly reported type of phantom feline in the Appalachian wilderness is the black panther, despite the fact that no species of panther is officially recognized to exist in black form within North America. The term black panther itself refers not to a unique species, but to a color mutation known as melanism that occurs in leopards and jaguars. These animals, when born with this genetic variation, develop dark, nearly black coats that allow them to blend effortlessly into shadows and forest undergrowth. The appearance of such a creature in North America, especially in the rural pockets of the Appalachian Range, remains a matter of speculation, as leopards and jaguars are not native to the region. What makes these sightings even more intriguing is the consistency of the reports. Witnesses often describe the creatures as large, muscular, and unnervingly silent, moving with an uncanny grace across forest paths or perched still in the brush, watching. In nearly every case, the phantom cat appears without warning and disappears in the blink of an eye, leaving behind no tracks, no sign of struggle, and no evidence of its presence apart from the deep impression it leaves on those who see it. Hikers frequently report an overwhelming sense of being watched shortly before their encounter, followed by an unnatural silence in the forest. No bird calls, no rustling of leaves, only stillness. Then, often just at the edge of visibility, a black silhouette emerges. The creature may stare for a moment, then vanish into the shadows, as though it were never there at all. Many who witness these cats describe an inexplicable chill or feeling of unease, suggesting that these encounters are not simply physical sightings, but possibly something more elusive, perhaps spiritual or paranormal in nature. Although similar phantom cat sightings have occurred in other parts of the world, including moorlands, fields, and public parks in Britain, the Appalachian region appears to have its own unique history of unexplained big cat encounters. Occasionally, reports come from more populated towns or rural backyards, but most of the stories emerge from the thickly wooded trails and remote hillsides where solitude and silence reign. Whether these phantom black cats are remnants of a hidden population, spiritual entities, or simply misidentifications of known animals, their presence continues to mystify. The Appalachian Mountains, with their fog-shrouded peaks and ancient forests, remain a fitting backdrop for such mysterious creatures, half seen and never forgotten. The mystery of the Brown Mountain Lights. In the shadowy expanse of the Appalachian Mountains, nestled in western North Carolina, Brown Mountain has long captivated the imagination of those who have gazed upon its mysterious nighttime spectacle. The Brown Mountain Lights, as they are known, have been observed for more than a century, appearing as glowing orbs of light that hover, dance, or flash across the dark ridgelines. The phenomenon is unique not just because of its visual intrigue, but because it has defied concrete scientific explanation despite repeated attempts to understand it. The first widely recorded sighting occurred in 1913, when a fisherman reported seeing strange reddish lights gliding silently above the horizon. He was not alone. Other witnesses soon came forward, and the lights quickly became a subject of public fascination. Reports described the lights as ghostly balls that hovered, shimmered, then either disappeared without a trace or burst into nothingness with no sound at all. In the years that followed, observers from all walks of life claimed to have seen them: hikers, campers, scientists, and residents alike. In 1922, the U.S. Geological Survey conducted an official investigation and concluded that the lights were nothing more than distant automobile headlights or train lights reflecting off mist or fog. While this theory seemed plausible at first, it lost credibility after a significant flood in 1916 destroyed local infrastructure. Roads and bridges were washed out, trains could not pass, and the area lost electrical power for weeks. Despite these conditions, the Brown Mountain lights continued to appear, casting doubt on the idea that the lights were simply man-made. Over time, folklore and cultural interpretations began to flourish. Among the most popular legends is a haunting tale rooted in Native American history. According to local tradition, Brown Mountain was once the site of a deadly battle between the Cherokee and Catawba tribes. Many lives were lost, and the lights are said to be the wandering spirits of grieving women still searching for their fallen loved ones. Other stories suggest the lights are tied to the ghost of a faithful servant endlessly looking for his master, who was lost in the wilderness long ago. In more modern adaptations, television shows like The X-Files have explored theories linking the Brown Mountain lights to UFO activity, expanding the mystery beyond earthly explanations. Not all stories, however, are based in superstition. In recent years, credible accounts from officials and scientists have added new layers to the mystery. In July 2016, the Charlotte Observer reported that Forest Service officers had witnessed glowing orbs the size of beach balls drift silently through the air before vanishing. The following month, a local news station shared findings from Appalachian State University researchers who had set up digital cameras on the mountain and claimed to have captured the lights on video. These efforts indicate growing interest from the scientific community, though no definitive cause has been identified. Proposed explanations include ball lightning, a rare and still poorly understood atmospheric electrical phenomenon, or the release of naturally occurring gases from the surrounding mountains reacting with environmental conditions. While both theories offer possible clues, neither has been able to fully account for the consistent patterns and behavior of the lights observed over decades. What continues to make the Brown Mountain lights so compelling is their blend of the unexplained with the deeply personal. Each observer brings their own interpretation to the event, whether through a scientific lens or a cultural one. The lights have inspired everything from local songs to novels and documentaries, embedding themselves into the very identity of the region. For those hoping to witness the lights firsthand, the best viewing opportunities occur from September through early November, when atmospheric conditions are said to be most favorable. Popular viewing sites include the Brown Mountain Light Overlook at milepost 310 on the Blue Ridge Parkway, the Green Mountain Overlook, and a newly enhanced viewing platform along Highway 181, supported by the city of Morganton to accommodate the increasing number of curious travelers. To this day, the Brown Mountain lights remain an enduring Appalachian mystery. Whether a product of unknown science, historical tragedy, or something more extraordinary, the lights challenge the line between reality and legend. And perhaps that's part of what keeps people returning to the quiet, dark slopes of Brown Mountain, hoping, just maybe, to glimpse something not of this world. The mystery of the grassman. The Ohio grassman is believed to be a Bigfoot-type creature commonly sighted across the state of Ohio. Unlike typical Sasquatch sightings, the Ohio grassman appears to have glowing red or orange eyes that are believed to illuminate on their own rather than being reflections of the light. Witness descriptions claim the creature to stand around 6 to 7 feet in height and weigh an estimated 300 pounds. The creature's physical description is commonly compared to being an ape-like creature, though typically seen standing on 2 legs and walks perfectly while bipedal, unlike the average ape or monkey species. The first recorded sighting of the Ohio grassman is believed to have been reported outside the small town of Minerva, Ohio, back during the summer of 1978. According to the official report, a married couple by the name of Evelyn and Hal Clayton claimed that while they had been tasked with babysitting their grandchildren, they encountered an ape-like humanoid creature described as standing at around 6 feet in height, weighing an estimated 300 pounds and covered from head to toe in dark, matted fur. At the time of the sighting, the grandparents were unaware of legends surrounding claims of the Sasquatch or Bigfoot, and so believed that the creature was far more supernatural in its appearance. According to Evelyn and Hal Clayton, the elderly couple had let their grandchildren play outside in the front yard of their home when suddenly the group of kids ran into the house screaming and crying. Unsure of what was happening, the grandparents consoled the kids and asked them why they were upset. From what could be gathered, the grandparents claimed that the children and their friends had been playing together near a gravel pit outside when they saw a large, hairy animal slowly coming towards them. At first, the creature appeared to be standing at a distance, watching the children from afar, but slowly traveled closer and closer to the group before standing on its hind legs and walking over to the kids in long strides. Terrified of the creature, the children ran inside. At first, the grandparents had assumed that the children and their friends had encountered a native bear species, as bears are known for keeping their distance while stalking prey, only to come in for an attack when they feel adequately capable or when natural food sources dwindle. This would cause the elderly couple to grab a few firearms and exit their house to go investigate the claims of the monster near the gravel pit. Once Evelyn and Hal Clayton reached the area of the gravel pit, they would quickly realize that the unknown creature was definitely not a bear. The Claytons would describe the creature as being a large ape man, seemingly rolling around and playing in the gravel pit where the children had been. At first, the creature had not noticed the Claytons until Evelyn had made a terrified shriek, which caused the monster to suddenly stand on its two legs and turn to the couple. It would be at this moment that the elderly couple would claim to have seen the creature with a nearly perfect view, describing the monster as standing at an estimated 6 feet in height, weighing somewhere around 300 pounds and completely covered from head to toe in a hard matted fur. Before the creature could react any further, the couple would run back into the house and barricade the building, telling the children to stay together, though the monster had failed to follow the couple and appeared to disappear shortly after. This initial encounter would not be the final sighting that the elderly couple would claim to experience, as the bizarre humanoid ape-like monster was consistently spotted throughout the surrounding area over the course of several years. During another reported encounter, the Claytons would describe seeing the creature peering into their home through a closed glass window while they had been preparing to go to bed. According to Evelyn Clayton, who had first spotted the creature pressed up against the window, she had screamed and pointed at the monster, causing Hal Clayton to also spot the creature and immediately run to go grab the closest firearm. By the time Hal returned to the window, however, the creature had already disappeared into the nearby woodlands. Worried that the unknown creature would return to their home, the Claytons would call the local Minerva Police Department shortly after their sighting and file an official police report on the matter. Although the local law enforcement were unable to corroborate any sightings of the creature, upon closer examination of the area outside their window, the police would claim to observe several large footprints in the mud that appeared to support their claim of a large humanoid animal somewhere in the region. The police report would also make mention of a terrible lingering smell that was described as smelling similar to rotten eggs. At another time, the Claytons would claim to see the same unexplainable creature standing near a hilltop several hundred yards from where they had been going for a stroll. Several days later, the elderly couple would go investigate the hilltop and discover that the area had once been a strip mine and most likely went through the hill for several tens of thousands of square feet. Believing that the hill could have been an entrance into a deep cavern that housed the creature, the Claytons would quietly observe the hill from a remote location for several weeks. According to the elderly couple, roughly after a month of observing the hilltop strip mine, they would spot two hairy bipedal ape-like creatures walking around the hilltop and seemingly disappearing into the strip mine entrance. It was at this point that the Claytons believed that the creatures must have been living inside the strip mine and that there could have been a whole family of the monsters. The Claytons also believed that the many reported disappearing dogs were evidence of the creatures invading the nearby area. Several weeks prior to their grandchildren spotting the monster in the gravel pit, the Claytons had discovered their German Shepherd with its neck broken, laid inside the gravel pit, and believed that the mysterious creatures were the ones responsible. Pennsylvania's White Bigfoot. In the quiet, forested regions of Pennsylvania, tales of the unexplained have long captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike. Among these, one story continues to stir curiosity and spark debate: the mystery of Pennsylvania's White Bigfoot. Unlike the more commonly reported dark-furred figure associated with Bigfoot sightings across North America, this version stands apart due to its ghostly white appearance and its rare, fleeting encounters in the deep woods. Recently, a photograph surfaced that many believe depicts this elusive figure, reigniting interest in a legend that stretches back generations. The photograph in question shows a large, upright figure at the edge of a dense forest. Taken at night by a hiker exploring a remote trail in central Pennsylvania, the image captures what appears to be a broad-shouldered creature covered in pale, almost glowing fur. Though partially obscured by shadow and trees, the figure's massive size and upright posture are unmistakable. To the hiker, it did not resemble any known wildlife, and it was captured entirely by chance, the product of a motion-sensitive camera set to detect nocturnal animals. Once shared online, the image quickly spread through social media and various Bigfoot research communities. The figure's striking appearance and apparent physical proportions matched long-standing descriptions of the white Bigfoot, also referred to by some as the ghost of the forest. While many Bigfoot reports describe creatures that are brown, black, or grey in color, sightings of a pale or even completely white Bigfoot have been reported in Pennsylvania for decades, though far less frequently. Pennsylvania, with its vast wilderness areas and mountainous regions, has long been considered a hotspot for Bigfoot encounters. The Appalachian range that crosses through the state is heavily forested, with long stretches of land untouched by human development. It is within these secluded pockets of wilderness that tales of the white Bigfoot have emerged. Witnesses have described seeing a towering creature with a coat of white or cream-colored hair, typically at night or in low-light conditions, and almost always during the colder months. Some suggest that the creature might be an albino variant of Bigfoot, explaining its pale appearance. Albinism, a genetic mutation that results in a lack of pigmentation, has been observed in many animals, including deer and bears, and even some species of primates. If Bigfoot is indeed a biological species, it is plausible that such mutations could also occur within that population. This would account for the rarity of sightings and the creature's sensitivity to light, which may cause it to move primarily at night. The folklore surrounding the white Bigfoot has gained traction over time, not just due to visual encounters, but also because of other reported experiences in the forests. Hikers have described hearing strange vocalizations, deep whoops, growls, and distant howls that echo through the valleys with no known source. On occasion, people have reported the unnerving sensation of being watched, followed by fleeting glimpses of a pale figure darting through the trees. These experiences are often so brief and surreal that they leave more questions than answers. The spiritual interpretation of the white Bigfoot adds yet another layer to the mystery. In many cultures, white animals are seen as symbols of purity, guardianship, or spiritual power. Some Native American stories describe white creatures as beings that walk between worlds, messengers of something greater than ourselves. For those who subscribe to these beliefs, the white Bigfoot may not be a physical creature at all, but a spiritual guardian of the forest, a being that appears only to those meant to witness it. Of course, not all observers are convinced. Skeptics argue that the recent photograph, while intriguing, could be the result of trick photography, a misidentified animal, or even a hoax. Some believe the figure could be a bear with light-colored fur captured in a peculiar posture or caught in a brief moment that created the illusion of something more unusual. Others point to the possibility of someone wearing a costume or editing the photo for attention. However, those who have spent years studying Bigfoot sightings in Pennsylvania counter that the combination of the figure's physical features, the location, and the surrounding lore is difficult to dismiss entirely. Adding to the intrigue are numerous older reports that align with this sighting. Local newspapers from the early 1900s mention strange white creatures seen roaming wooded areas and scaring livestock. In more recent decades, campers and hunters have shared their own accounts, many of which echo the description seen in the recent photograph. A tall, white-haired figure walking silently among the trees, never aggressive, but always elusive. The environment itself may play a role in concealing such a creature. With the heavy snowfall Pennsylvania receives during the winter months, a white-coated animal would blend perfectly into its surroundings. The state's thick vegetation and rugged terrain make it difficult for even seasoned hikers to traverse certain areas. A creature adapted to such conditions would have no trouble avoiding detection, especially if it actively sought to remain hidden from humans. Researchers continue to analyze the photograph and gather related accounts. For some, this image represents the strongest visual evidence yet of a regional variant of Bigfoot. For others, it's simply one more chapter in an ever-growing legend that reflects humanity's deep fascination with the unknown. Ultimately, whether the white Bigfoot is a living creature, a myth passed down through generations, or a spiritual guardian of the forest, the mystery endures. Its presence serves as a reminder that the natural world is full of wonders yet to be understood. For those who have glimpsed its pale silhouette among the trees or heard its distant call in the stillness of night, the question is no longer whether something is out there, but what it truly is. As long as the forests of Pennsylvania remain vast and shadowed, the legend of the white Bigfoot will continue to roam within them. The mysterious disappearance of Teresa Treny Gibson. The Great Smoky Mountains have always been a place of awe and wonder, drawing visitors from around the world to witness their rolling peaks, misty trails, and vast wilderness. But behind the beauty lies a shadow of mystery. Stories of people who entered the park and never returned. Among the most unsettling of these is the case of Teresa Treny Gibson, a 16-year-old girl whose disappearance in the autumn of 1976 continues to confound investigators and haunt the region. On the 8th of October, 1976, Treny Gibson joined a group of approximately 30 to 40 classmates from Bearden High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. The students were on a field trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, accompanied by only a single chaperone and their bus driver, minimal supervision for such a large group. Their intended route was the Forney Ridge Trail, beginning at Clingman's Dome and leading to Andrews Bald, before looping back to the starting point. Once at the trailhead, the students naturally split into smaller groups based on their hiking pace. Treny was seen at various points throughout the hike, walking with different classmates, sometimes with a group, other times alone. She was last seen around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, veering slightly off the main trail, seemingly intrigued by something to her right. That moment marked the last known sighting of her. Treny was described as wearing a blue blouse, a striped sweater in shades of blue and white, blue jeans, and dark Adidas shoes. She had borrowed a brown coat for the trip and wore a distinctive ring, one adorned with a diamond and a star sapphire, a piece of jewelry she was known to always wear. Despite these clear details, no trace of her belongings or body has ever been recovered. As evening approached and Treny failed to return with her classmates, concern grew quickly. Initial searches began late that afternoon, but were immediately challenged by inclement weather. Heavy fog, rain, and dense seasonal foliage created poor visibility, even for aerial searches. Park rangers, local volunteers, and trained search and rescue dogs, including bloodhounds and German shepherds, were brought in to assist. Interestingly, the dogs did pick up her scent. It led them along the Appalachian Trail, near the Clingman's Dome observation tower, before abruptly ending near a roadside roughly 1.5 miles from Newfound Gap. This abrupt halt prompted investigators to consider the possibility that Treny may have been picked up by a vehicle. Adding to the mystery, searchers discovered cigarette butts and a discarded beer can in the vicinity where the scent trail ended. While these items alone did not offer concrete evidence, they did suggest the possibility that someone else had been present in the area, potentially interacting with or observing Treny. Questions began to emerge. Had someone been waiting for her, or was she possibly followed? Further intrigue came when Treny's personal hairbrush was later found in the car of Robert Simpson, a fellow student who had reportedly walked with her during parts of the hike. Though Simpson was never named a suspect, and no evidence linked him directly to her disappearance, the discovery added another layer of complexity to the case. Suspicion also turned briefly toward a young man who had previously attempted to unlawfully enter the Gibson family home. Treny's mother, Hope Gibson, had reportedly confronted this individual during the incident, after which he allegedly issued threats toward the family. Authorities investigated this lead, but ultimately found no definitive connection to Treny's disappearance. By the 12th of October, just 4 days after she went missing, the initial search was dramatically scaled back. Only around 20 individuals remained on the ground, though follow-up efforts continued sporadically through the remainder of the month. In the spring of 1977, additional search operations were carried out in hopes that melting snow might reveal new clues. Unfortunately, nothing surfaced. Even a renewed search in 1981 yielded no new evidence. It seemed as though Treny had simply vanished. Over time, theories began to diverge. Some believed Treny had become lost and succumbed to the natural elements. Yet, if that were the case, many wondered why her body or any of her belongings were never found in an area that had been combed repeatedly. Others believed she had been taken or had left the trail voluntarily, possibly with someone she knew. Years later, former classmates began to speak publicly. One such classmate, Kim Pouncey, suggested in a 2017 interview that Treny may have had a plan. She believed that someone could have been waiting for her near one of the many access roads close to the trail. Given how easily someone could enter or exit the park unnoticed, this theory gained traction among those still following the case. Still, despite numerous leads and extensive investigation, no definitive answer has ever been found. Treny's disappearance remains officially unsolved, and she has never been declared legally deceased. Her parents lived out the remainder of their lives without answers, clinging to the hope that one day the truth would emerge. The case continues to draw the attention of amateur investigators and those fascinated by unsolved mysteries. Over the years, Treny's name has appeared on many lists documenting disappearances in national parks, cases marked by strange circumstances and sudden vanishings that seem to defy explanation. Her story is frequently shared as a chilling reminder of how quickly someone can disappear, even in a group setting and even in broad daylight. Today, those who visit Clingman's Dome often walk the same trail Treny once did. The forest remains much the same, thick with trees, layered in fog, and silent except for the sound of footsteps and the whisper of wind through the leaves. Her story lingers there, etched invisibly into the landscape. The mystery of Teresa Treny Gibson is a story without a final chapter. It is a tale that underscores the power of nature, the gaps in human understanding, and the heavy weight of unanswered questions. Whether her disappearance was the result of an accident, a planned departure, or something more sinister, the truth remains locked within the misty folds of the Smoky Mountains. Until that truth is uncovered, Treny's story will remain a haunting and unsolved piece of Tennessee history. The mystery of the Devil's Tramping Ground. In the dense, shadowed woods of Chatham County, North Carolina, lies a curious and unsettling patch of land known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. Located approximately 10 miles west of Siler City, this circular area of barren soil has captured the imagination of locals and visitors alike for generations. Roughly 40 feet in diameter, the circle is perfectly symmetrical and starkly devoid of any plant life. Grass refuses to grow. Weeds do not sprout. Trees will not take root. It stands out in striking contrast to the surrounding forest, which is lush and thriving. What makes the Devil's Tramping Ground even more unsettling is the persistent belief that objects left in the circle overnight will be moved or tossed outside its boundaries by morning. Campers, investigators, and curious travelers have placed items such as chairs, tools, and personal belongings within the circle, only to find them mysteriously relocated the next day. This strange behavior has fueled speculation about unseen forces guarding the area. The origin of the name Devil's Tramping Ground comes from a long-standing local legend. According to the tale, the devil himself emerges from the underworld each night to pace around the circle. Consumed by thoughts of mischief and malice, he walks the perimeter endlessly, wearing the earth thin with his heavy infernal steps. His restless presence is said to scorch the ground, explaining why nothing has ever grown there. Some versions of the legend describe hearing faint footsteps or whispered voices in the dark woods surrounding the circle. Others claim to have seen fleeting shadows moving between the trees or caught glimpses of a dark figure pacing in the moonlight. Beyond the folklore, the site has attracted scientific curiosity. Soil tests conducted by the North Carolina Department of Agriculture revealed surprising results. The soil from the circle was found to have the necessary nutrients and chemical balance to support plant life. There were no toxic substances, no extreme acidity, and no apparent contamination. Despite this, the ground remains stubbornly barren. Insects, too, avoid the circle. No ants build their hills, and no worms till the soil. The soil's physical characteristics add to the mystery. It appears unusually compacted and darker in tone, as though pressed down by repeated movement or force. But there is no traffic in the area, no path carved out by animals or hikers that would explain such a condition. Paranormal investigators have attempted to monitor the site using cameras, motion sensors, and electromagnetic detectors. Some reported brief technical malfunctions or unexplained battery drains while on site. Others shared feelings of unease, sudden chills, or the sensation of being watched, yet none have produced hard evidence of a supernatural cause. The circle continues to be a place of fascination. Over the years, it has been featured in documentaries, articles, and online videos, drawing in those who seek to understand the unknown. Local storytellers pass the legend down to new generations, each adding a layer of intrigue and mystery. It is not uncommon for visitors to make pilgrimages to the site, hoping to witness the unexplained with their own eyes. Some arrive skeptically and leave puzzled. Others are convinced the place holds a power beyond human comprehension. Theories about the circle range from the scientific to the fantastical. Some suggest natural gas emissions, underground magnetic fields, or even fungal activity as possible explanations for the barren soil and electronic disturbances. Others are content to believe the legend, seeing the circle as a thin place, a location where the boundary between this world and another is unusually thin, allowing energies or entities to pass through. The mystery endures, in part, because there is no clear answer. Despite decades of observation and research, the Devil's Tramping Ground defies explanation. In the end, the Devil's Tramping Ground may not be a place where one can expect dramatic supernatural events or glowing lights in the sky. Its power lies in its stillness, its simplicity, and the way it quietly unsettles those who visit. It invites speculation, encourages storytelling, and resists being easily categorized. Whether a natural anomaly, a paranormal hotspot, or a relic of ancient folklore, the circle remains untouched by time and change. For those who stand at its edge, staring into its hollow center, the question is always the same. Why does nothing grow here?